we'll start with this. Well, some very revealing comments from Mr. Bob Arum, who was quoted as saying, Teofimo has a 3.5-year contract with us. If somebody else outbids us and gets the fight, it's a one-off. I'm not happy with the way it's played out because my whole experience in boxing is the fighter deals with the promoter and the other side is the adversary, the other side being Matchroom Boxing. In this case, for some reason, the fighter who's promoted by us and the other fighter colluded together to see if they can get the most money. They didn't do anything illegal, but it was not a wise thing in my opinion. Looking at the long picture, if anybody should be pissed, it should be us, because that's not the way a fighter deals with his promoter. That will come about when we have Ramirez versus Taylor, and we're looking for an opponent for the winner. That's when the chickens will come home to roost. It sounds a lot like what Bob Arum is saying, is that depending how this all plays out, Teofimo Lopez may have fractured his relationship with Top Rank so much so that he may have costed himself the undisputed title fight at 140 pounds. We're a ways out from that, you understand.
We are.
A winner has not yet emerged because the fight hasn't happened and it's not set to happen for some months.
But when it does, Bob Arum is going to have this in mind.
It is essentially what he's saying. In that way, it's almost a warning shot from Bob Arum that if for some reason Lopez versus Kambosos ends up on the DAZN Matchroom side of things, he's not going to forget that when it's time to find an opponent for the winner of Ramirez versus Taylor. And that's an interesting set of comments because up until recently, it was thought that the winner of that fight would subsequently move up to welterweight, move up to 147 pounds, and take on Terrence Crawford. Very recently, that changed due to the interest from one Teofimo Lopez to move up there and challenge the winner. Suddenly, that became the narrative, that became the conversation, and that may change, depending on what happens with the Lopez versus Kambosos fight.
Lord knows Crawford needs the opponents.
And that was the plan up until recently. Up until recently, it was thought that the winner of that fight would move up to 147 pounds and challenge Terrence Crawford there for the WBO title. Things going the way that they're going with Sean Porter.
That fight may or may not happen.
We're now closer to the Errol Spence Jr. unification match.
God only knows what insane amount of money Keith Thurman wants.
Terrence Crawford could greatly benefit from this development, from this situation, that if Teofimo Lopez continues to drive a wedge between himself and the people over there at Top Rank, he may very well cost himself that fight. And that's important because, Teofimo Lopez isn't going to stay at lightweight forever.
He's not.
You can hypothesize that if a relationship develops between Teofimo and the people over there at Matchroom, they do have Devin Haney, and that is a sizable fight of some interest, of some value, that fight. But whether that fight happens at 135 or 140, as far as 140, all the belts in that weight class, all the belts in that division, they're on the Top Rank side of things. At least they are in the immediate future, the foreseeable future. Up until the point that Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor fight each other, and up until the point that a winner emerges.
This could backfire.
Bob Arum is, in so many words, accusing Teofimo Lopez and Eddie Hearn of collusion. They may be working clandestinely together to ensure that Matchroom receives the fight so that they can air the fight on DAZN. They want to stand to benefit from that. And Teofimo Lopez is aiding them in that effort so that he can get at more money than what Top Rank is willing to put up for the fight. I'll tell you that I don't think Teofimo Lopez is wrong. I think he's going through the proper channels, that if you are dissatisfied with the amount of money that Bob Arum is willing to put up for the fight, then see about getting it elsewhere. And he can. That's what the purse bids are for. If you can't reach a deal under the current circumstances, you go to a purse bid and see who else wants to stage the fight. Maybe they're more willing to pour more money in the pot than Bob is.
You can't have it both ways, Bob.
Maybe it is collusion. Maybe Teofimo Lopez and Eddie Hearn are working together to ensure that that fight happens on DAZN as opposed to ESPN because the people at DAZN are willing to put up more money for it. But you know what the solution is?
What?
If that's the case and it means that much to you, then get the people over there at ESPN to pour more money into the pot.
Pony up the fucking cash.
Otherwise, what are you expecting this kid to do? He's a prize fighter. He's going for a bigger prize. You're expecting him to turn down more money for less money to satisfy who?
I can't blame Teofimo.
I really can't. But what I will say is, everything in life is a case of causality. You may go for the short-term goal of earning more money for Kambosos over there at DAZN than you would have got at ESPN.
Right.
That is what is in the immediate future. But as a simple case of causality in the long run, yeah, that could cost you. because everything is you scratch my back and I scratch yours. Teofimo Lopez's course of action has left Bob Arum and the people over there at Top Rank with an itch.
An itch that needs to be scratched.
So you collude with Eddie to see about having the fight over there on the Zone platform as opposed to ESPN. And if it happens that way, good for Teofimo. More money for him. But don't look to Bob Arum to do you any favors after that.
That's what he's gambling.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything costs. And in order for Teofimo Lopez to get at the kind of money that he wants to get at here and now, that could cost him the undisputed title fight at 140 pounds. It all depends on how the cookie crumbles. Is Bob Arum doing anything illegal by deprioritizing Teofimo Lopez getting the winner of that fight? No, it's no more illegal than Teofimo colluding with Eddie.
Would he be doing anything wrong?
Not necessarily, as it's not a requisite that Teofimo be fast-tracked to the winner of Ramirez versus Taylor. And the original plan was to have the winner of that fight Terrence Crawford.
You ended up on Bob's shit list.
If that is what you were willing to gamble to get at the short-term goal of making more money for the Cambosos Jr. fight than what the people over there at Top Rank were willing to put up, if it's worth it to you, then you do it. Just remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything costs. Everything costs something.
Don't expect him to do you any favors after that.
It all depends on what means more to Teofimo. The short-term goal of getting more money rather than less money for Cambosos, or ultimately fighting the winner of Taylor versus Ramirez. That is a decision that only Teofimo and his team can make. And just in keeping with the theme of news coming out of the lightweight division, Ryan Garcia told Teofimo Lopez, "Be a man. Lomachenko deserves a rematch." He was quoted as saying, "I respect that you beat Lomachenko. I respect that you beat him. Great job. Respect. Did you destroy him? In my honest eyes, no, you didn't. You didn't beat him like I would have wanted to beat him. I would want to knock him out, you know? That's how I would feel good about the victory. Knocking you out or just outclassing you nasty, you know what I mean? Which I honestly don't think that he did. I think that he did good, and I think that he fought a pretty good fight. Lomachenko, he thought that Lopez may be a harder puncher than even them, so he was gun-shy in the beginning, which makes sense. But then once he figured out it really wasn't as bad as it seems, he started beating him up. Teofimo was getting beat up a couple of rounds, like bang, bang, bang. His head looked like the fierce reflex bag. His eyes were all swelled up. He was getting beaten up. So I don't like when he tries to make it seem like he destroyed Lomachenko, and then to say that he don't deserve no rematch. Man, you didn't beat his ass. Excuse my language, but you didn't whoop him down to the point where it was like undeniable. Why wouldn't you give him a rematch? If you a real man, like be a man, you didn't beat him down, you did all right, but he does deserve a rematch in a way. The fact that he would say that is nuts in reference to, Ryan Garcia's internet celebrity. The fact that he would say that is nuts to me. Do you know how long I've been getting that? That you're only big on social media, but everywhere I go I get stopped. I just beat Luke Campbell, so you can't really say anything about my boxing ability, like, don't make a lie. It's one thing to say something, but don't lie. It don't sit right with me. Like, don't lie that we're not hot. You're kind of hot. I mean, you're scratching the surface, to be honest. Teofimo is far behind getting to the level where we're at. You know what I mean? Ryan Garcia has left us with a lot to dissect and a lot to discuss. In reference to Vasyl Lomachenko deserving a rematch, I want to say that deserves, is a very big word from where I'm sitting. I mean, it really is, because it really isn't about deserving a rematch. It's about whether or not you did what you had to do to ensure that you get a rematch. And if the Vasyl Lomachenko people, if Igis Klimas and Vasyl Lomachenko and Papachenko and all of them, if they didn't have that incorporated into the contract language of the Lopez fight, well, that's just a tough fucking pity for you guys. I don't know that I can criticize Teofimo Lopez for not giving Vasyl Lomachenko a rematch and be objective at the same time, because the truth is, he doesn't owe him one. As a boxing fan, if a rematch were to happen, of course I'd watch it. It's a very intriguing situation. In reference to the anecdotes that Ryan Garcia imparted on, Vasyl Lomachenko and the performance that Teofimo Lopez put forth, I do happen to agree that it isn't like Teofimo Lopez destroyed Vasyl Lomachenko. I said it before and I'll say it again. Vasyl Lomachenko costed him a sizable portion of the match
himself
by not throwing. That could be because of the injured shoulder, or that could be because, he was being careful with Teofimo Lopez. He's a big, strong kid, good counterpuncher. You don't want to give him the opportunity to counter you so early in the fight because that's when he's still fresh. And that's when he can take you out. It could be the former, it could be the latter, it could be both. That given the injury that he had, that he walked in there, with that injured shoulder, that nagging injury that he's had for some time, in unison with the kind of fighter that Teofimo Lopez is, that's what created that environment. It's not an excuse per se so much as an explanation, but one way or another, Vasyl Lomachenko costed him
Himself.
a sizable portion of the fight, of the early goings of the fight. And that in and of itself does not equate to Teofimo Lopez beating him from pillar to post, knocking him
Down.
out, or even knocking him down.
Didn't beat the shit out of him.
When Ryan Garcia says that it's not like Teofimo destroyed Vasyl Lomachenko, I agree. I do happen to think he's right. He didn't destroy Vasyl Lomachenko in the match.
Nah.
I mean, he didn't do to Vasyl Lomachenko what Mauricio Lara just did to Josh Warrington, right?
Right.
We can agree on that.
Right.
No, he didn't destroy the guy, but he did beat him, at least on paper.
Right.
But even that doesn't necessarily mean Vasyl Lomachenko deserves a rematch. I'll say that if Teofimo Lopez exacts his plan, as it is, to fight George Kambosos, maybe he beats him, he, moves up to 140, never gives Vasyl Lomachenko that rematch, I won't complain. But, if Teofimo Lopez remains in the lightweight division for the foreseeable future, after the Kambosos fight, if he doesn't fight Devin, and we all know he's not likely to get Gervonta Davis in the ring, nobody is, and he doesn't get Ryan in the ring either, that's when I would begin to ask questions that if options are scarce, why don't you give that guy a rematch? Because you're still in the lightweight division after all. I think we're a ways out from a scenario like that coming into fruition, though. I mean, that's several months down the line. That's essentially a scenario that takes place after the Kambosos fight. And all the particulars in association with that fight haven't even been ironed out yet, so it is a ways out.
But what if Vasyl Lomachenko becomes his mandatory challenger?
Teofimo Lopez is in possession of 3 of the 4 major alphabet titles. We can't say he's in possession of the actual green belt because the version of the green belt that he has doesn't even come with mandatories. But the other 3, they do. He's about to satisfy one of them. So what if Vasyl Lomachenko in the foreseeable future comes back, participates in a final eliminator to become the mandatory challenger to one of Teofimo Lopez's belts? What then?
In that scenario, he would owe him a rematch.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're not there yet. I mean, Vasyl Lomachenko hasn't even rebounded from the loss to Teofimo Lopez. In reference to the fighter's star power, which Ryan Garcia referenced, that, Teofimo Lopez is not with his celebrity, not with it, where Ryan Garcia is. I think that's true depending on who you ask. Ryan Garcia is a popular kid in certain circles.
He is.
The teens and the tweens and the YouTube crowd, the social media kids, the cool kids. Yeah. I don't know about the boxing fans, but the boxing fans definitely do know him. I think that Ryan Garcia does in fact have more celebrity than young Teofimo in spite of not being anywhere near as accomplished as Teofimo, because those who know of him are not limited to your hardcore boxing fan. And that's what it's all about. When you can reach a casual audience, the casual observer, that perhaps doesn't watch every fight every weekend. In that way, you do have to say that Ryan Garcia is a bigger celebrity of sorts, even though he's nowhere near as accomplished as Teofimo Lopez. Those are the people you're trying to get at. Those are the people you're trying to reach. Not necessarily the hardcore boxing fan, but the casual fight fan and the individual that perhaps isn't even a big fan of the sport of boxing, but they are still aware of someone, of an athlete, of a boxer. Boxer like Ryan Garcia.
It has to translate into dollars, though.
That's the thing. Ryan Garcia does have a bigger social media presence than Teofimo Lopez, but Ryan Garcia is not now where Oscar De La Hoya was, or Floyd Mayweather Jr., or Manny Pacquiao. Of course not. This kid just crossed over into contender status. Why would he be? That being said, a kid who just crossed over into contender status doesn't need to focus so much on his celebrity. He needs to focus on developing as a fighter. This is what I always say about Ryan Garcia, that he's got the base to become one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star, in the sport of boxing. He has the foundations. But here today, having crossed over into contender status, he is far too focused on that. You should be focused on beating Teofimo Lopez, not whether or not you have more followers than he does, or more people stop you in the street as opposed to stopping him. Your focus should be beating him in the ring, inside of the squared circle, for all those lightweight titles. That should be the order of the day, and that should be the focus. Maybe Ryan Garcia does have a bigger social media presence than Teofimo Lopez, but what the fuck does that have to do with beating him?
Don't try to use that as an excuse to not fight him.
I'll tell you something, the more I keep hearing about who's got more followers on Twitter or Instagram or whatever the fuck it is, the more that's what it sounds like to me. I think that maybe Ryan does have a bigger following, or maybe Ryan's reach is not limited to the boxing fan. Perhaps that's true. But one way or another, you're a boxer, he's a boxer, and he's more accomplished than you are in the sport of boxing. So what the fuck are you gonna do about it?
He's telling Teofimo to get on his level.
And what level is that? What level is young Ryan Garcia referring to? His level of Instagram followers? His level of what, social media presence? To what level is Ryan Garcia referring to? Because if he's levels above Teofimo Lopez in any area, that would be it. He's not levels above him in terms of boxing, in terms of the sport of boxing and what he's accomplished so far. I don't hold that against him, but we have to be honest here, that if Ryan is levels above Teofimo in any area, I guess it would have to be levels above him in terms of Instagram followers. What, you're telling him to get more Instagram followers?
Get more YouTube subscribers.
That's gotta be what he's talking about, because as far as boxing goes, Teofimo is levels above you. Teofimo has beaten and unseaten 2 active reigning world champions, one of them being a pound-for-pound darling, a pound-for-pound sweetheart.
That's his level.
And in that arena, it is Ryan Garcia that has all the catching up to do.